Just wanted to start things off by announcing that we've received our CertiK contract audit back. And of course, that will be made visible to everyone to look at soon. Probably after this AMA, I'm not really sure. But there's just a couple of things in there that I thought would be best to address in an AMA sort of format like this. We'll probably have like a written analysis of it as well afterwards, just to go alongside the report. But I think it's just important to address the fact that they've presented a couple of issues in there, in their review, in their report, one of which they determined to be partially resolved, and the other they said is something that we've acknowledged. So the first one they put forward was that there was a centralisation risk, which is essentially referring to the fact that the contract's not renounced. As we've stated before in our website and our light paper, we've stated why we haven't done this. It's so that we can implement the sliding tax scale, sliding reflections, as well as holding events, like we have in the past, like No Tax Tuesdays and all these various other things, and future events that we'll look at doing also. So I think it's just worth mentioning we haven't renounced the contract for those reasons. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, actually, I was talking to someone earlier about it, but it's something we will look at doing, of course. It's in our roadmap, where we will renounce the contract and remove all tax and reflections, because by this point, you'll be relying on your income and rate of return instead of from reflections that will be from the staking platform, which will yield a higher rate of return anyway. So, the reason we were looking to renounce and do this is because it allows for easier exchange listings. There's been a track record of tokens that have looked to be listed on these bigger exchanges in the past, but they've struggled to do so due to the fact that they have taxes and reflections in place. So that's something that when we renounce, we won't have a tax or a reflection. It should make that process easier. And I think it's also just worth mentioning in our contract that it's impossible to change the max transaction any lower than 0.1% of the total supply. Currently it's at 0.2%, and it always will be until we're listed on exchanges. I thought it's just important to bring that up, because what that essentially means is we aren't able to cease buys or sells. That's something that has happened with other tokens. I'm sure you've heard about it. Dreadful scenario, but we've written that into our contract, so we physically can't do that. So I thought that was just something worth mentioning. The other major risk they cited was that there was a centralized risk in the add liquidity part of the contract. Now, initially, we wanted to host the contract on the Gnosis wallet, but unfortunately, it wasn't impossible to do on Gnosis. We tried many times before launch, but unfortunately, it was just impossible. What we thought we'd do, just in the interest of transparency, is just share our screen, which I think Johan will do.
Yep.
And just demonstrate this, the fact that Gnosis rejects this over and over again.
So we go to the contract page of the contract. We go to write. Then we have to connect the contract owner. You can connect any other wallet, but you're going to get the error that I'm getting some feedback from Jaren's microphone, I think.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. But if you connect a wallet that is not the owner of the contract, you're going to get the error that I'm going to show you in a bit. So if we go to my MetaMask, can see that this is the owner contract wallet ending in D07, and now this is the transfer owner function. So all we need to do in order to transfer ownership of the contract is, let's say, our bridging wallet for the reflections, where all marketing reflections go before we transfer them to our Genosis. So we input the contract address and I press write. And as you can see, right now we're actually getting an error. One sec.
Yeah.
Bridge wallet. I think this is because current owner of the contract is actually a hardware wallet. So I need to log into my ledger device. Just a moment.
Yeah, that was what I was actually going to go into. Yeah, the fact that I'll just mention why he's just doing that. That our resolution as a solution to that problem was to hold the contract on a safe and secure ledger, controlled, of course, by Yoan. It essentially just means that no one else has access to it. So there's no possibility that someone can hack it because it's in a safe and secure ledger. No one can make changes to it. In the extremely, insanely unlikely event of that happening, we are protected due to the fact that we don't actually hold KTO tokens on the contract wallet. As we previously mentioned, we can't stop sells, we can't stop buys, we can't turn that off. And of course, we have no issues regards to liquidity because we've locked our liquidity. It's been visible since we've done it for 5 years, as well as locking our invested tokens just as an added measure. So yeah, sorry.
Yep, so I've unlocked my ledger device now, and at first you saw that I was getting the crazy fee trying to transfer ownership to the bridge wallet. That's basically Etherscan's way of showing that you're getting an error. The reason we're getting an error when trying to transfer to the bridge wallet is because that's the wallet getting the marketing reflections, and the contract doesn't want the owner wallet of the contract to be getting the marketing reflections. It's basically saying that it needs to be in two different wallets. But when I changed the address to say the wallet I use for Genosis, paste, all of a sudden you can see that the fee has dropped from 6 Ethereum to 0.06 Ethereum, and we don't have the big warning saying that the transaction will fail most likely. Now, to prove that the current contract owner is a device that's on my hardware wallet, you can see this pop-up here, which basically confirms it by saying that in order to execute the transaction I need to connect my ledger and confirm on it. Now, the way ledgers work, for those of you who haven't used one, I was really confused about it until I got one myself. Basically, the wallet is still in your MetaMask, everything is absolutely the same. The only difference is that before you are able to confirm a transaction or execute a transaction, you need to physically, on the actual device, which my camera isn't. Yeah, this is the device here. It's like a little flash drive. You need to actually confirm on it physically by pressing the buttons on the device. So even if someone had full access to your computer digitally, they can't execute any transaction from your wallet, from your hardware wallet, because they actually need the physical device, which is also protected by a password pin, and it also has a seed phrase which is securely stored. So now I'm going to demonstrate transferring ownership to the Genosis wallet. So this is our Genosis, this is what we have in it at the moment. And now I'm copying the address, paste, and you can see the warning saying that transaction will fail and the gas fee being almost 6 Ethereum again, which means that it's basically given us an error. And while I'm showing all of that, I'd also like to bring your attention to back to the first major issue, that CertiK identifies in our contract, which is the fact that, well, the contract isn't renounced, and we have the right to change taxes and to change max transaction. And as Martin pointed out earlier, there have been cases where tokens lock their liquidity for months or years, and people feel safe investing in the token, but then they just set the max transaction to 0 tokens, and nobody can sell, nobody can transfer their tokens, and essentially they just wait out the token lock so they can rug the liquidity. We are unable to do that even if we wanted to, and if I find the function, here we go, set max transaction percent. The way this function works is by using a divisor. So we put the percentage at the top, and the number by which it will be divided at the bottom. So this here will give us 0.1%, which is the half of the current limit, and which is also the limitation of the contract. The contract won't allow us to go any lower than this. Just to demonstrate, as you can see, we're able to set the transaction maximum to 0.1% of the total supply, which is about 1 trillion tokens. But if I try to set it to anything lower, so 0.09%, we get the error again and over 7 Ethereum gas fee. So the contract is rejecting it. And if I try to set it to even 0 or something, we're still getting the same error. This is because of the way Trinus, the coder who wrote our contract, writes the code. He makes it as safe as possible, and that's why he's so popular in the space, exactly because of the fact that he makes the contracts unexploitable, essentially. And if we go back to the taxes, also it serves to demonstrate that I can't just set the tax to 50%. So 500 equates to 5%, so 5,000 equates to 50%. So essentially this is a tax of 50%. And we get the error. At the moment, the taxes are set to double reflections, so there are 600 reflections, 0 going to the liquidity pool, and the marketing fee at the moment is 4%. So this is the current taxes. As you can see, we don't get an error. Something that we have found out recently is that despite us being really clear about it with Trinus, he has forgotten to change the limit on our reflections to 9%, and he has left it at 8%. What this means is that we can set the reflection fee, so the reflections to all holders of the token, to 8% and without getting an error, but we can't set it to anything above 8%, and this goes for all the other fees as well. The marketing fee, the liquidity fee, all of these are capped at 8%. None of them can go over, which gets in the way of our promises and what we said until now about the token eventually reaching the point on the sliding scale mechanism where it will be at 9% reflections to holders and 1% marketing fund. As you can see, now we're getting the error because I'm going over the threshold set by Trinus. What this means is that we will not be able to reach 9% reflections, but in order to compensate, the end point of our sliding scale tax will reach a point where the reflections to holders will be 8% and the marketing fee will be 1%. So the overall tax will be lowered from 10% to 9% total. I think this is it in terms of demonstration. Yep.
Yeah, that was a frustrating one for us. It only recently just came to our attention, but we thought this would be a good time to bring that one up to you guys. So yeah, on behalf of the community, we just want to apologise for that, because we hate the idea of saying one thing and then not being able to deliver. But as Johan says, yes, the max holder reflections is actual fact is 8% now, instead of 9%. But what we will do is obviously we'll rectify all of our website and light paper information where we say it's 9%, and obviously all future promotional material will be corrected to say 8%. So yeah, we'd just like to apologise for that one. It was an oversight that we should have foreseen, but it is frustrating because it's something we specifically asked for and commissioned when the contract was being written, obviously. Otherwise we wouldn't have said it. But yeah,